Well, hey everybody, how are we doing? On we trudge into our chapter 9, solving quadratics. Now we're actually getting more into the introduction to the quadratic formula. It is the most important, also the largest formula that we use. We've sort of started working on it. You might remember we did x equals negative b, here negative b over 2a. That was the axis of symmetry. Okay, and now today we are going to use b squared minus 4ac. It's called the discriminant, and it does exactly just that. It discriminates against this formula, whatever the equation is, and it puts it into three different types of categories. So it is exactly what it kind of says. It's pushing this problem into three different categories. You're either having a category that has two solutions, one solution, or no solution. So anytime you get one of these problems that says, which of the following equations have real solutions? Well, you would use the discriminant b squared minus 4ac to help you figure that out. So remember, as always, we always have to find A, B, and C. That is our first things. And we want to evaluate the discriminant to see what our results are. We're looking for a couple of things. If the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, equals 0, is it less than 0? Or is it greater than 0? Those are our things we're looking for. If it equals exactly 0, remember, we would only have one solution if it equals 0. If it's less than 0, think of the numbers that are less than 0. It's the negative numbers, right? All negative numbers are less than 0. If you have a negative number, there is no real solution. No real solution. It's complex, what we like to say. Of course, you'll learn a lot more about that in Algebra 2. And then the last part over here is this, when it's greater than 0. That's all your positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on to infinity. This means you'll have two real solutions, okay? Think about this. Why do you think this is happening? Something we learned back from section 9.3. Remember, where does the discriminant fall in this formula? It's sitting underneath a square root. And we learned that if you go and you take your calculator and you put 0 in, you get 0. You have one possible solution. And there's no such thing as plus or minus 0. If we put a positive number in, well, we always have to account for both the positive and the negative results, like the square root of 36, right? Think about this. If you have the square root of 36, that could be two results. You could have a positive 6 or a negative 6, because 6 times 6 is 36, and negative 6 times negative 6 is also positive 36. And then what happens if we have a negative under here? Put that negative number into your calculator and you are going to get an error. So that's why there's no real solutions. That's the hint to this. So this entire section is just about, here's a quadratic equation they'll give you, and they only want to know, is there one solution, two solutions, or no real solutions? Is the answer complex? So let's look at the first one. Again, we need to identify what is A, what is B, what is C. So A is negative 2. B is going to be 4. And C is negative 2. And we have to plug that into our formula. B squared minus 4AC. If you've been watching the video. All right, B squared minus 4AC. And we're going to substitute. Remove the B. Minus 4. We remove our A. Remove our C. And now we substitute. We plug our values in. B was 4. A was a negative 2. C was a negative 2. And we need to very carefully evaluate these. Okay, so 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. And now we're going to do negative 4 times negative 2 times negative 2. We end up with a negative 16. Look at that. When you take 16, you minus 16, your answer is 0. So remember, if it equals 0, you have one solution because technically it's under a square root. So that would equal 0. You would have one solution. We do the next one, same thing. Identify your A, identify your B, identify your C. And we're looking for what? 6, negative 2, and a 10. And our equation again is B squared minus 4AC. We do our substitution. We remove the variables and insert a set of parentheses. Always do this first. If you do this, it doesn't take much time. It so increases your odds of getting these problems right. B is a negative 2, and this is exactly why. You want to make sure that negative is inside the set of parentheses. A is 6, and C is 10. Right, negative 2 squared, so negative 2 times negative 2 gives us 4. And then we have a negative 4 times 6 times 10. Gives us negative 240. Look at this. When you add those together, you get a negative 236. Remember, that is under a square root. So that would give you an error in your calculator. So there is no solution. It is complex. Let's check out the last one. Again, A, B, and C. 1, negative 2, and 4. And we plug it into our equation. B squared minus 4AC. Remove the B. Remove the A. Remove your C. And we plug them in. B is a negative 2 again. A is 1. C is 4. Okay, this becomes what? 4. Oh, look at that. Look what I almost did. Did you see this? I almost did the same mistake you guys do in class. You missed a negative there. Uh-oh. That was supposed to be a negative 4. Wow, that could change everything for us, right? Because we would have got a negative 16 over here. Now that we have this negative in here, when we check that out, negative 4 times 1 times negative 4, we get a positive 16. It would totally make our answer wrong. That's why we have to be very careful with signs. If I can make that error, so can you. And when we add these together, we get a 20. And that is a positive number. The square root of 20 will actually give us two different numbers. They're not pretty, but it's like 4.472135. So you could have plus or minus the square root of 20. That's going to give you two solutions to this problem. Two solutions. All right, and that is all this is. We have now started to use over 50% of our quadratic formula. We have learned what the discriminant part is. We've been using this. Again, our next lesson will be now using the whole thing together to actually find our solutions, our x-intercepts, our roots. So please make sure you're getting out there and doing your homework because it's important to follow along. It makes everything else in math easy when you practice along the way. Have a great one, guys.